Hello, this is Galen at the Side Hustle Army podcast. Welcome to the show. As always, be sure to go to thesquirreljournal.com to get your free guide, Squirrel 101, the Distracted Entrepreneur's Guide to Maximizing Productivity in the Next 48 Hours. Today is an awesome show. I am joined by Adora Crystal. Adora has a fascinating story. Most of all, Adora is a sales guru, and she takes sales to a whole new level that I've never thought of before. So for anyone who's in sales and has some issues with that word, Adora helps clear that up and look at sales from a point of view of service to others, which is amazing. So Adora's in Texas. I'm in Eastern Ontario. She is the founder of the Rich Queen Movement. She has been a producer for the Discovery Channel. She has been featured in 2 Napoleon Hill Foundation books. Be sure to listen until the end, where Adora will tell you how to get a free gift, a sacred sales conversation script delivered right to you. So, welcome and enjoy the show. Welcome, Adora.
Thank you so much. And I love the name of your podcast. Side hustles are the future. They're freedom.
Yeah, they definitely are. Yeah. It's funny though. Yeah. We definitely obsessed over the name a little bit. And then we finally were like, we just got to run with this name and see where it takes us. So it's been quite fascinating.
I love it. That's what you do. Imperfect action beats no action all day long.
There you go. Imperfect action. Perfect. So I am very excited. I mean, before I hit record, you were starting to just share all sorts of amazing value tips and just your amazing story. So I will let you run with it because you've got a lot to share that's amazing. So first off, just fill us in on what you're up to and maybe how you got to where you are right now and the main ways you help other people. And then we can go from there.
Yeah. So if you're listening and you've already heard this amazing intro, which I enjoyed hearing, it made me feel really important. Something that I want to let people know and make sure that people know is that I didn't start that way. I lived I was molested as a child. I grew up on welfare, went to 13 schools before 9th grade. I was living on my own by the age of 15. By 17, I was already divorced once with a scarlet letter on my chest because I was then the Bible Club president who now adulteress, fled town, runaway bride. So, when this journey started for me, it wasn't because I had this excellent education or I just always felt beautiful and fabulous and, all that, which, by the way, I do feel beautiful and fabulous now. And I believe it is a tip to receiving. You have to love yourself. You have to love who you are. You have to see yourself the way that Spirit sees you in order to be able to receive, or else you'll always push it away and deflect it. That's bonus. That's bonus. So, yeah. So my life wasn't easy, and I don't know where you are, whoever's listening or watching, but I know that we all have our own journey, and it's relative to you, and that even, whether your story was worse than mine, similar to mine, or better than mine, it does not negate that we all struggle with insecurities, with self-worth, with things that block our flow, block our ability to say what we want and then to go after it. And so I've spent a lifetime learning how to turn a legacy around, learning how to be a receiver, learning these deep self-love things. And I'm going to give you some of my hottest tips right now in that free gift at the end. So first,
that's amazing. I was just going to say one thing. I really love, I want to make sure everyone's kind of capturing what you're saying here. So one of the things I really liked that you said was, you have the story, the background that you have where you didn't start with, like you're saying, you started by the age of 15, you were away from home, divorced by 17. And I think what you said was really interesting where you said, whether my story is, a lot of people I feel when I'm coaching people on their story, most people come to the table, and I certainly was like this, with, oh, my story isn't that interesting, or my story isn't as bad as, I hear these stories of people who are homeless and all these things. It's like, oh, my story's not. But really, at the end of the day, every person has the struggle, like you said. There's the struggle, and there's overcoming the struggle. And it may look like, oh, I grew up, with more privilege than some people, but I still struggle with this. I still struggle with that. And it's still a journey of kind of what do we do on a day-to-day basis to overcome those. And so really, I'm really glad you brought it up, because anyone who's listening, who's thinking, and I've helped so many people with this, because they say, oh, my story is boring, or my story isn't as tragic as it should be. I'm like, no, it's your story. You overcame stuff, and it will resonate with people. And I think that that's really important that you brought that up. And I'm glad you brought that up.
Oh, thanks. Yeah. So now bringing that story in. So I just want to take you all to 17. just turned 18, and I'm living in this boarded up shack in Greenville, Texas, with no electricity, sheetrocks not on the walls. And I didn't have electricity because I just didn't have money management, and I wasn't managing money well. I was working at a jewelry store, and this woman came in really excited, showing her before and afters of weight loss. And I was really wanting, I still am into fitness, and I was wanting to get in shape, and that inspired me first. And then she talked to me about, oh, and you could become, you know, a business owner if you've ever thought about that, and I'll train you, and you'll have coaches, and you'll no. And so instead of paying for my electricity, I bought an Herbalife distributor kit. And you know what I bought was my freaking freedom, because inside of that Herbalife distributor kit was, so all of you in sales or in business or sell, you know, that have joined a direct sales company. I'm not in one now, but I think that is such a beautiful industry, because anyone from anywhere can go. We have the opportunity to change our story, change our legacy, whether that's lawyer to, you know, fishing tour guide, you know, or it's living in a shack to, you know, working with celebrities, which is something that I got to do later. So I grabbed this box, and inside of it, there's a cassette tape. If you're too young to know what that is, Google it. And I put it into a Walkman player, battery operated, and I'm listening to this guy, because I'm like, all right, I can change my journey. And the shack is dark. You know what happens? I mean, I literally have candles as the sun's setting, and there are piles of clothes everywhere, because I was like taking up donations of clothing for people. So people were bringing like van loads of clothes over. So it looked really junky, like really, really junky, but, you know, did the job. So anyway, I hear Jim Rohn, and Jim Rohn is talking about this metaphorical sailboat that we're all in. And he's saying, your boat, the sail is set in a certain direction, and you will arrive at that destination eventually. And your life is leading you towards somewhere. And it's based on the choices that you're making, the people you hang out with, where you come from. And man, when I was hearing that, I was thinking, oh my gosh, because I could look back on, you know, I'd already been molested. I felt abandoned. My mom left whenever I was really young. Like, I had so many, I felt I'd even failed God at this point, right? Because I was divorced. I was supposed to marry a preacher. I was going to be in missions, and now I've committed adultery. Like, I am in a small town. I have no, you know, so like, but then he said, if you don't like where you're headed, the good news is all you have to do is set your sail in a new direction. And he said, it may take you longer than other people, but you will eventually arrive in the place that your sail is set. And that, it gives me chills still, because that to me was like, oh my goodness, there is hope for me. There's hope for me. And then he said, you need to go get mentors. And I thought, oh my gosh, who's going to mentor me? Like, I've worn that card out, and where? And he said, if you don't have mentors, go to the library. There are free books filled with someone's life. They took their whole life lesson, they put it in a book just for you. So Galen, I read 75 self-development books that year. I listened to, I can't tell you how many audio programs. I had one-time check of $8,753 and some change. And the evidence, I still wasn't getting it perfect. I was still a total mess, but all I needed was a little evidence that what I was taking in was helping me move the needle, was helping me progress. And it was, you know.
And what was that? Do you know what that evidence was, or like is?
Yeah, like even a check for $8,000 and something dollars was huge. I was applying, connecting with my next person was Tony Robbins. You know, I'm shouting out goals. I'm doing all this stuff. And so, so that happened. But here's the other thing that I want to say, because when you first start applying principles and you start reading, you get this. you get this high ideal of like where you're going, and now you know the truth, and now you're going to be this amazing, awesome person. And then you screw up somehow, right?
Yeah.
So my next screw up was I got not getting married again. That was okay, wonderful. I have beautiful children out of it. But then we started going through a divorce. My next screw up was I don't know how to make money fast. I don't know how to provide for my children. I'm going to go become a stripper. And for me, that wasn't the healthiest choice. Definitely part of my journey. And for people looking outside, right, it looks like, what are you doing? Yeah. Oh, you're on this self-development journey. You were growing. Like, obviously that's not working. And I could have used that stuff against me. But instead, I was taking half of everything I was earning and going and to half price records and books and loading up on audios and trying still like, I remember going to Landmark Forum and spending $800 or whatever for their courses, with the only goal being, let me have the guts and the belief in myself that I can make money and provide for my children somewhere else. Like, and no one knew that I had that down, right?
Yeah. I've done Landmark as well, Forum and Advanced and all that stuff, and it's amazing. It's amazing. Yeah, and I'm very grateful for the people. Like, I used to think of that. Okay, so actually, this is probably very right in line with what we're talking about. Is before, so about 2 years ago, a friend introduced me to Landmark. And so for those of you who don't know, Landmark is basically, it's personal development courses where, I was given the time and the opportunity to think about my life and myself in a whole new light. And when they were introducing me to it, I didn't understand it. I was like, what is this thing? Like, what does it do? And they had trouble describing it. They're like, well, it's kind of a course. And, and it was kind of funny because the thing they said, the reason I finally went ahead and did it, and I'm a pretty big skeptic in general, the reason I finally went ahead and did it was A, I trusted them, and B, I said, well, what did you get out of it? Like, what did you get? And they said, well, in our case, we yell at our kids less. And I thought, oh, like, I'd love to yell at my kids less.
Yeah.
So I was like, if that's going to do that, then and I got so much more out of it. Like, I ended up, just wow, like, just so many amazing connections with people, and so many renewed relationships with people in my life. It was a really incredible experience. And then it opened up in my mind to all these different things like manifestation and changing energies and things like that. Whereas before, I thought all this stuff was just like hokey and like I just didn't get it. But it was actually really Landmark that helped propel me into that world of being more open-minded to a different way of doing life and a different perspective. So I'm actually glad you brought that up, because we have that in common, and it's an amazing experience. And so through all this, like, I don't want to derail too much from what you're saying, is, so you're working as a stripper, and you're trying to manifest in your life a different way to make money, because you're saying it wasn't necessarily the healthiest option for you, but you needed to provide for your children, right? And so
and I'm not a victim. Like, I could have provided some other way, right? Sure. This was the way that I felt confident in, that I enjoyed certain elements of it. And so it's not like, some people say I had no other choice. There are always other choices. This was the best choice that I could see, with the emotional place and the mental capacity that I developed myself to at that point.
Got it.
So, so that's where I was. Then something monumental happened. There was someone that I thought was going to mentor me, works for the World Bank. I was sober. He thought I'd been drinking. He put Rohypnol in my tea, drugged and raped me. I thought maybe I had a brain tumor. Maybe I let him on. And that speaks to where my self-worth was and my self-trust, at which I'm bringing these things up because the more you trust yourself and you learn to trust yourself and you work on the beliefs, the more you feel those inklings that help you know when spirit is leading you to more money, more love, more your next highest step. So if you don't do that work and you put it all outside on the mentor you're crushing on or the people, it's still not going to work at full capacity. You're going to get some random wins and it's still worth it because you're learning behaviorally some things, but at the deepest level, you've got to do that work to really go all in on yourself, trust that you've been equipped by God, by spirit, by whatever, made you, whatever your belief system is. And that just like you love your children, I love my children, all of creation wants to evolve, grow, expand. And there is someone in your corner, something in your corner, a higher consciousness that is wanting that for you too. And that you're equipped, to handle it.
And so, yeah. And like, it's interesting as I'm listening to you, because there's still a part of me that's like, well, easy for you to say in the sense of, not easy for you to say in the sense of your life's been easy, but in the sense of you've seen it work. And it's amazing the level of conviction you have for this approach, because you've seen it work. And I love what you said about, not offloading so much on the mentor, and like not offloading so much on a certain path. And what I see in the realm of business building, in the realm of marketing, in the realm of personal development, I was just I had an interview the other day about this, and it was people getting infatuated with a character, getting infatuated with a personality. And actually, to bring Landmark back into it a little bit, the beauty, I believe, of that type of personal development is they try to offload that, like not getting infatuated with a leader, not getting infatuated with a single individual, but rather like really turning inward. And so, Adora, in your case, like, okay, so for someone who's saying like, what is all, like someone who's really new to all this and just hearing about your success with this mindset and manifestation, like what's something someone can do? Like what's something I can start doing now, or something I can start, tomorrow morning or tonight or whatever it looks like, to say, how do I start implementing that sort of a shift in my life?
Yeah, well, the first thing that I would say is notice what comes up as your resistance. So for you, just now came up was easy for you to say. So that's something that is an automatic response when you're going for your success, is like, oh, they've got it better. Which I just told you, my life was, I promise you, it was not easy. It was a struggle. Like, I'm like believing before there was any evidence. And there were years before it, flipped, and I like got manifested my TV career for Pat Summerall, or working, on The Secret. I've flown around on jets and I've done all this amazing stuff. But there were a lot of years where people were going, oh, she's reading a book again. And I did apply, if I want what they have, I'm going to do exactly what they did all the way. So I'm not saying don't listen to a mentor. I'm saying you don't put your power outside. And now back to that. So when you start to go for something, notice what thing comes up. So in this example, it was easy for you to say, and I appreciate that transparency. But under that is, I don't have a good enough. I'm not good enough. That person's better. It's some version of that. So your reverse on that is like, I'm fully equipped. It's easy for me to say. It's easy for me to do, because I've never even I grew up already in a blessed world, or whatever your thing is. You got to switch that story to work for you. But, some simple tips. So
first of all, just to recap, because I want to make sure.
Yeah.
So it's amazing. So you're saying, getting curious about what that resistance is. And I think that that's really important, in the sense of most of my life I've spent delving into those things, like those dark thoughts or those dark patterns, like just thinking they shouldn't happen. My delusion was they shouldn't happen. I shouldn't have negative thoughts. They should go away. And it wasn't until not long ago when someone taught me a little bit about that, of like getting curious about it and finding out what's underneath it and getting comfortable. Like I talk about it, like swimming in that darkness, like getting comfortable swimming in it. And, like you said, like, okay, like, it starts with me saying something like, it's easy for you to say because your life is different, or you're different, or whatever. And then it's like, well, what am I really saying? Oh, I'm not good enough, or my life hasn't led me down the path that would lead me to success, like whatever I'm saying, and then reversing it to, well, it's easy for me to say too, because of like finding evidence for the contrary and living into that evidence. Like, I think that's kind of what we're
Absolutely. And most people go one way or the other. Either they go so into the darkness that they don't allow themselves to have I can never do this. It's like the little engine. I think I can, you can, you can't. It's like, my life is so terrible and burdensome. And I will tell you, there are many of my family members that did live out the statistics that my life shows that I could be. So debunk that one right away. There are more statistics saying that when you come from this path, it's really screwed up, right? Not that you're going to be the most successful, right? So some people really crush on that dark stuff and never allow in or move to the reframing, because that's the next part, is reframing. And some people, and I was this person, I was way more comfortable in the light, positivity. Yeah, I don't even want to think about that stuff. Forever, I didn't even tell people that I'd ever been a stripper. I buried it. It was gritty. But you know what? The truth is that by embracing that and loving that, there's deeper self-love. There's more space for other people to step into whatever their grit is. And your strength is in your grit. I mean, you go to the gym. I'm showing you my guns. I just came from there. You go to the gym and you expect to feel sore if you're changing, right? But in life, we don't want those things. We don't want, but you know what? Those things are for you. They are so that they're preparing you for the game you chose to come play on this planet before you ever got here. And so learning to embrace that stuff in balance with reframing to a story and counting your blessings and knowing what your strengths are, that's the magic formula.
Yeah, you know? And that analogy is amazing. We expect, if I'm going to do a marathon or train for a marathon, I expect to be sore. I expect to have some, twinges. If I go to the gym to work out, if I'm working my arms are going to be sore. If I'm working my legs, I'm going to be hobbling around. Like, that's expected. And I love how you said, in life, it's almost like we think it should be different, or I think it should be different. I have this delusion that it should just all be positive all the time. There shouldn't be these growing pains. And so it's getting, so if I'm correctly looking at this, it's, getting curious about what's coming up, reframing it and embracing it. And I like what you said, like the strength is in our grit of what we're like pushing, or what we're up to and what we're about. Cool. And
your message. Yeah. And that thing about side hustling, those of you that are side hustling, there's such a truth to do what you love, right? And the money will follow, which is kind of got some false stuff. It just sounds like the money's going to start raining when you're doing what you love. Someone dancing naked in the street, they love it. Money's
exactly. It's just going to happen.
Right. It's just kind of people. I mean, maybe. Maybe in the right visa or something, but then the problem is when you only look at one side of it, then the first little challenge. Hold on. So the first little challenge then throws you out. Oh, I guess I wasn't meant to do that.
Yes.
Oh, and then look what happens. You start a lot of stuff that you never finish because you're not anticipating that, not only am I going to experience some things, but think about progress in the gym. If you go to work out once, you're not sore anymore, it's time for me to change it up, mix it up, make it hard again. It's the same in your side hustle. Like, you've got to get used to this rhythm and make it fun. Like, I crave the gym. I love it. And people who love the gym, like, we're cranky without it, right? Yeah. But it didn't start that way. So same thing in your side hustle, you've got to get that mentality and that rhythm and in manifesting of like, yes, you're coming from your heart. What inspires you? You need to dig into your why. Why am I doing this? Why am I here? Who is it for? And don't let your excuses be your excuses. Like, oh, I can't do this because I need to spend time with my children. No, that's the reason you need to do this. So you have the time to spend with your children. Don't let them become your excuse for selling out, right? So you dig into your heart, and then you expect for it to get tough. And if you get to a point where you level out and you're like flowing and the maestro, it's time for you to level up. Go make it tougher. Go find people that are going to pull you to the next thing, because and then get comfortable and confident, and soon start to train your brain to enjoy and anticipate that process. Like, this is what sets me apart. This is what gives me the extraordinary results.
Well, that's amazing. So expect it. And like, there's so many things that's coming up for me. And like, one of them is, somewhere I heard someone say you like choose your pain. It's like, like I know that this is going to be tough and I'm expecting it. And I really like what you said. Like so many people start things and stop because once it gets tough, it's like, oh, I wasn't expecting this. Or they think that that's an indication that it's the wrong path. Whereas not necessarily. It's like, okay, maybe I need to level up. And there's two analogies that I thought of. One that I heard that I love is when someone has a baby and the child starts to walk and the child walks and then falls. Like no one says, oh, this child is useless. Like stop trying to walk. Like it's just like, okay, keep trying. And the other one is with like any sort of a sport, like skiing, for example. When I was learning how to ski, I was really proud that I hadn't fallen in a long time. And someone said, well, maybe you're plateaued if you haven't been falling at all. Like maybe you're not pushing yourself enough. And I remember that hit me like, oh, like it wasn't that my goal was to never fall down. It was to push, to push myself and to get better. And I really love what you said about that, about, your message, expect for it to be tough, train your brain to enjoy that. And I think that's interesting. I mean, that's really, really interesting. So one thing I wanted to make sure we touch on before we wrap it up is before I hit record, you said most people manifest the wrong way. And so now that we've kind of delved into it, I think anyone who's listened to this so far has got some really great tangible tips on how to manifest. What would you say, like quickly, is like, what's the wrong way? And then I know you've walked us through a bit of the right way, but like if you maybe could contrast like what you're up to and what you're out there to help people with, how is it different than what doesn't work about the old way?
Yeah, thanks for bringing that up. So, law of attraction and The Secret. I worked on that movie, and I love Esther and Abraham Hicks. I love all the work. I still read 4 hours of something or listen to 4 hours of something per day on average. Like it's lifeblood for me. Those principles are so great. But people are either doing this like sitting around, visualizing, feeling great, and just waiting with no action. Or they're goal setting, hardcore, all action, drive, and grit with no heart receiving, surrender, inkling, flow, right? So from a spiritual concept, I look at this as we all have feminine and masculine energy inside of us. And being that we've been a predominantly, male-dominated society for a long time, it's shifting. A lot of great men, a lot of great women, thank goodness. Most of us have been taught the achiever's way, like write the goal, say them out loud, go, 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 which I do. I have this whole manifesto, oh, wow. And I read like all these goals of where I'm going. I read them. I've got it recorded. I read it out loud or listen every day. But that's not it. It's like, first of all, you going into understanding the whole picture and going into a softer place in your goals. Like instead of just saying, oh, I want to make $1 million, or, oh, I want to be a best-selling author. Like relax and go into that childlike, like, hey, wouldn't it be really fun? Wouldn't it be really fun if I just made $1 million? And like, I was able to start giving like Oprah, and I could take my mom on that trip, or I could take my dad to the Dallas Cowboys game, and then we could ride around in a limo, and I could get him some. Wouldn't it be fun if I got this client that was just like, oh my gosh, where have you been all my life? I can't wait to pay you to be on my bed praying for you. Wouldn't that be so fun? And if I was like, oh my gosh, I love you too. And wouldn't it be fun if like, that's how all of my manifestations came about. Like literally after, let me wrap up with this story example. Yeah. After I was drugged and raped, I'm reading Think and Grow Rich, and Law of Desire was the first thing. Write down what you want. And I was naive enough to go, well, if I could really do anything, I would love to interview successful people. That's what Napoleon Hill was doing. I'd love to have that opportunity, and I'd love to be paid for it. And then someone called me that knew me and did not know that I'd written this down, and said, hey, and he knew I was a dancer because I met him in the club. And he was like, there was a job that I had when I was younger, and it gave me an incredible skill set. I think you'd be great. You're going to have to apply. You're going to have to pass the psychology test. They bring in a third party. But if you get it, I think it'll be great for you. And I was like, whatever you say. I didn't even know what it was. I buried that I was a stripper. I went and did the test. Once I got the job and was in the training, I was calling CEOs of 10 million plus companies to enroll them in being featured on the Discovery Channel. My name ran as producer in the credits.
Wow.
I learned to close $26,000 deals, but the whole process was an interview process. So literally I wasn't even finished with the book and I was there. So that's the other thing is, some people get so goal focused and action focused that they miss the magic. They miss the prayer. They miss the receiving. So it's being lopsided in one way or the other. And it's like, you've got to have both in balance, just like we have the sunlight and the moonshine. We have the rain, you know, so it's about balance. And speaking about balance, because I know we've got to wrap up here. I have a download on my website that will be applicable to men or women, where you go into what lessons your ancestors spent their entire lifetimes learning. So they spent their lives to learn certain key lessons, and those lessons live in your DNA. And in this time and age when most people are going to manifest, they're trying to disassociate from patterns of education is the only way, or poverty mentality, and they're trying to, you know, disassociate from things. But what they're missing often is, but what am I loaded with? Because you know what, no matter how good or how bad it was, your ancestors have survived. You made it here. You scored a body. You're still in the game. And now you are the face of that legacy. And so if you're going to turn it, which most of you are, that's why you're like the revolutionary trailblazers, you have to know what superpowers you already have. What did your ancestors fight to give you? And this class is a very activating class. It's very spiritual in nature, but it's going to unlock the codes in your DNA that have always been there so that you can like show up powerfully. And it's been one of the most profound things in my manifesting program. And yeah, these women are manifesting money like gangbusters. Wow. So
that's amazing. Yeah.
Go ahead.
Go for it. Yeah. Well, I was just going to say, like, just to quickly, like, just around, first of all, like what you said around the child, like the very hard goal, like, I'm going to get this goal, I'm going to get this goal, I'm going to get this goal. And then you flipping it to being like, what if this happened? Like the curiosity, the receiving, the softer side of all that goal setting, and how to keep that in balance, which is really amazing. Like that's something I've just not heard before, but it makes tons of sense. And I can't wait to practice that, of the goal setting, but also the childlike, you know, approach to it of what if this happened? What if that happened? That's really amazing. And then, yeah, it's like this DNA, like you're going on to even like another next level thing of the DNA and the ancestors and changing the legacy, which is amazing. And so, yeah, so you're about to, I think, point us somewhere to you said you have a class?
Yeah. So you can go to adoracrystal.com. We'll just, there, they both, or actually therichqueenmovement.com. I was going to say Adora Crystal, not to defer any of the guys, but guys, you're going to see the class that I taught that class to women, but it will still be powerful for you. And lots of women have, I've started seeing them pulling in their husbands and their partners to do the class with them. Yeah. So eventually I'll teach a neutral version of this because I love men, and I believe that, you know, we all need to heal this, and we all want to be in harmony together. Absolutely. But I just teach women a lot. So therichqueenmovement.com, put in your email and you'll get that masterclass for free with the workbook. Love it. Yeah, I just signed up myself, so I can't wait to dive into that and get a look at it. This is amazing. So thank you so much. Like there's so many things you've like, I can't wait to I love doing this podcast because I can go back and re-listen to things. Yeah. Because I know I'm sitting here like, I can't wait to re-listen to this and really absorb some of the amazing concepts that you're throwing out about, you know, just different approaches to mindset, different approaches to manifesting, which I've never heard before. So I can't wait to, you know, because I'm always going to learn new things re-listening to it. And so I love it. So thank you so much for joining me. Everyone go to adoracrystal.com or go to therichqueenmovement.com. I already went there, super fast, super easy to just throw down your email, get your free goodie, and get started with implementing some of these tips. That's amazing. Anything else you want to close out with? Thank you so much for having me here. And wherever you are, if I never meet you, if I never see you, I just want you to know that you're called to something epic in this planet. As a spirit floating around, you squeezed yourself into a body so you could taste, feel, experience something. And please take the time to wake up to what that was and to write your own story in a way that empowers your spiritual truth. These physical things that you're called to, business, family, love, heartbreak, that is the epic spiritual game you came to play. So please, please, please do whatever you can to show up in that game and do your thing.
Awesome. I love it. Thank you so much. This was amazing.
Yeah, thank you.
All right. Take care. All right, folks. Galen Nuttall here with the Side Hustle Army podcast. Today I'm here with Adora Crystal. This is the second time on the podcast. We're covering, the first one was amazing. Second one's going to be equally as amazing. And this time we're going to talk. So Adora Crystal, in case you guys don't know, is a high ticket sales expert. Adora has worked with celebrities. She has been a producer for the Discovery Channel. She was featured in 2 Napoleon Hill Foundation books, and she worked on the movie The Secret. And she, before I hit record, was just starting to share with me all sorts of amazing stories about how she's done high-ticket sales and how sales has really just revolutionized her approach to things. And I thought, let's just hit record and start getting this down because I want everyone to hear about this. So welcome, Adora.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much for having me again. I'm loving being with you. I love your commitment to entrepreneurs, to freedom, to other people fighting for their time, to do more of what they love, be with their families, work out, travel, whatever that is. And so for me, sales is the path to freedom for anyone. Doesn't matter if you're a single mom and you don't have time for college and you need to up-level your income somehow. It's going to be through sales that you raise the limits of your income cap. Yeah. Whether you do that in your own business or you go do it for another company. It doesn't matter what happens in the economy. If you learn to get really great at sales, you will always have a place because you bring the money into the businesses. So it's an important skill. And even if you hate sales and you're like, I hate salespeople, I hate everything about sales, It makes my lips sweat, my underarms sweat, I feel like an apple. I was about to I feel like a jerk.
You can say it.
Yeah, then you're going to have to sell your children on brushing their teeth. You're going to have to sell that guy on asking you out on a date. Or you're going to have to sell that girl on going out with you. It's really about connection and rapport. Yeah. So that's one of the first things I want to do is debunk that sales are this slimy thing. It's actually a sacred, beautiful call that drives economy. And we'll get into that in a little bit. But is it all right if I tell you a little story?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's great that you brought it because that's exactly what I was sitting here like. Even me, being having a history in sales and all that. Sales is like this 4-letter word that just has all these negative connotations. So I'm glad right out the bat you're saying, all right, let's debunk some of those things. And you just connected it to exactly where I figured we'd end up, which is connection and understanding humans and understanding people and understanding behavior. And, quickly I'll say my role as a financial advisor, I didn't want to become a financial advisor for a while because I didn't want to be in sales. And I said, I don't want to be the guy at the party that no one wants to talk to because I'm trying to push, life insurance. I don't want to be the guy ticking people off because I'm knocking on doors. And then I was very fortunate to very early on move away from that, but then move away from that towards a bit of a more genuine approach. And so I'm very interested to hear what you have to say about it. And the last thing I'll say is just that so many entrepreneurs. I was in a a brainstorming session with a room full of successful business owners, and they said, "What is your biggest hurdle? Like, what is the biggest barrier to taking your business to the next level?" And it was a room of 7 people from 7 very different industries, and all of them said sales. Every last one of them said sales. And so. And I wasn't expecting that necessarily. And even the other people in the room who were business consultants weren't expecting that. And so I'm consistently helping other business owners in that idea of, I don't want to be a salesperson. I don't want to be sleazy. I don't want to be slimy, but I do believe that what I have impacts the world in a positive way. And I want to get it into the hands of more people. So awesome. amazing. Can't wait to reframe this idea of sales. And yeah, I'd love to, yeah. So go for it. Let's hear this.
Yeah. And so I want to hack that you just said too, because there are 3 big opportunities right there. One is that, hey, listen, if you don't know where to start and you don't know who you are, what you're called to, go find a product or a company that you're passionate about what they're doing and get on their sales team, because even if it's commission based, if you're bringing the money in the door, you will have a place always, and you'll have more access to that mentor, that company, that product, get discounts, whatever. 2, and you'll be solving problems for these key people that you want to mentor you. You become very important to them. 2, if you're a company owner, you've got to at least understand sales and change your relationship to sales, because you shouldn't be the slimy person hitting everyone up and spamming everyone. But what you should be is a sacred calling and a divine stand for someone to take action in their life in something that is important to them. And we'll go into that in a moment. Make sure we're going to dig deep into that one. And third, if you're a company owner and you've been scaling and you've been doing the sales, you don't have to become the genius at this. You do need to understand it, and then you need to know how to find people that are going to be as crazy about your product and be as awesome on that call as you would be yourself in order to scale, right? So 3 little hacks there. So that funny story, okay?
Yeah, go for it.
I'm going to dive into that real quick, because I wasn't this excellent salesperson. So I want to debunk that too. People think, oh, you're just born. No, I was a people-pleasing person. I got most friendly and most courteous 2 years in a row in high school. I hated confrontation. The idea of sales made me sweat. But I'd been reading all the books, and I read Ogmandino, the greatest salesman in the world. I interviewed that guy on my podcast a few days ago. The guy who runs that foundation, he's amazing. I knew that if I wanted to succeed, I needed to learn how to do this. And so I knew that I needed to find the mentor, do exactly what they said, even if it was uncomfortable, if I wanted to grow. So I get this job. I manifested this job at Pat Summerall Productions for the Discovery Channel, which was high-end sales. It was calling CEOs of 10 million plus companies from a white sheet of paper with just a few facts about them, getting them to invest $26,000 into being featured in a segment of the show.
Wow.
And I didn't have a computer. I was in a cubicle, talking a big game, but I had just been a stripper. I didn't have any college education. I was just ready for change, right? So I went and found the top producer and said, hey, teach me what you've been doing. And at first he blew me off because the turnover rate was so high there.
Yeah.
Every week someone packed up their cubicle and left. And they were this old school boiler room type of person, right? So basically, I take the script. I've got my first guy on the phone who owned huge properties in Chicago, was the first one to do the high rises with concierge service. He was thriving, owned multiple properties now all over the US. And, here I am, this 23-year-old person with little self-worth and people-pleasing, non-confrontational, my senior producer standing over my back. And my next line was supposed to be, hey, I don't know if you're going to be a fit. And let me say, I don't believe in all of these tactics anymore. These are all tactics, right? But I'm saying, I don't know if you're going to be a fit. And that felt mean to me. That felt like really. So I tried to hand him the phone. You guys, my lips sweating. I'm like I'm flipping out. Every fight or flight whistle is going off, and it's flight screaming. So I hand him the phone, and he points at me, and he's like, no, he's mouthing the words, no, you say that. And I'm like, ugh. So I get on there, and I'm like, I don't know if you're going to be a fit. And he was like, yes, I'm going to be a fit. Let me tell you why. And he starts going off. And that was my first $26,000 deal. And long story short, our quota there was 1 deal a month. And I was doing like, and most people weren't hitting that. I got to the point where I was doing 6 or 7 a month. And that opened all these other doors. I got to work with a designer that dressed Prince his entire career, convincing celebrities to wear the clothes. I got to walk red carpets. I got to fly around in private jets, to work on the movie The Secret, blah, 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 all this stuff. Even now, my business coach who got me owning my own voice and showing up online and doing my own business, has me teaching sales in her company. And I started taking on her sales calls because I wanted the access. She changed my world, got me showing up online, got me into coaching. And what I said earlier, you know, if you want that access, you find a mentor, find a way to serve them. And I became her top salesperson, and, you know, her packages are like 20 grand, right? And so then now I teach all these 6 and 7 figure earners inside of her group. We still have that partnership. I teach them sales, and then I help up level people, like, how do you structure your sales call so that it's not slimy? Because I'll tell you on my calls right now, and then I'll let you ask questions. Many entrepreneurs know if you want to fund your business, you're going to have to come up with a package that's higher end and not these little one-off $100 sessions. You've got to come up with something bigger that you can bring them into, and then you can really offer them a real transformation, and you're not hustling your head off, you know, on the struggle bus elsewhere. So once you come up with that, and then you learn to get people wanting to book those calls with you to see if you're a fit for them, the way you do that call for you can feel like it does for me, which is like I'm building my legacy. I'm spending time with an epic person. We're going to have a heart-centered, revolutionary conversation, whether or not we work together. And if it's meant for them, they're going to make the choice to say yes. And if it's not, it's not. And, you know, every single time we're either laughing our heads off, the client is crying, but it is always like, that was such a profound thank you for your time. And guess what? In the middle of that call, I look forward to those calls. And when you shift your mentality around sales, you will too, because I know that I've changed their lives and impacted them in some way. And it's my life happening too. So I'm not going to waste a moment, an hour doing something where I feel like a slime ball or a jerk or like I'm pushing an agenda. It's a sacred moment. We're having a sacred moment right now. So you can structure your calls so that you're actually enjoying these things. Because when someone books a call with you, and I'll pause in a minute, Galen, so you can ask what you want, but I'm on a roll. That's a passion for me, obviously. When someone books a call with you, they are desperate for change in that moment, desperate enough or curious enough, or they've hit enough of a threshold that they were willing to take time out of their day to say, tell me what you got, because I need something. And that moment in each of our lives is a very special moment when we're finally like, I'm done. I'm ready to change my body. I'm ready to change my marriage. I'm ready to change my money. You know, and in that moment, you have the rare opportunity to be like, if not now, when, you know, and you have the moment to help, because if they don't make a choice to do something right then likelihood is in 48 hours, they're not going to feel as motivated, and they're going to be eating the bucket of ice cream again or doing the crap. And then a year from now, they're going to have less faith in themselves. Are going to be even more defeated and further along the path that they don't want to be on. And so you have a very special activating agent in that moment, and you can do it in a way that isn't pushy, that is not demanding, that isn't slimy, but that is holding so much love and reverence for where they are, and then saying, if this is your time and I'm the person that you're vibing with, let's do this. You know, let's do it. And people feel it, and they thank you for it, you know?
Well, yeah, I mean, so that's amazing. So I mean, one of the things earlier you started with is, you know, in that moment when you were, and I mean, one thing to point out in case people didn't catch this is, like you mentioned, it's not like you have, you at this moment had a lifelong of training, or if you had any sort of background in this. I mean, you're very much a combination of like self-taught and then also these mentors you had kind of teaching you along the way. So I just want to make sure everyone was clear on that.
Yeah, and I
then,
had to go get them. Those mentors ignored me.
yeah.
So don't be weak-minded and be like, no one will train me, because I saw people, no one will help me. No, you got to go get it.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then the other thing was that, you know, you started off like, I think, you know, the same way I did, where it was, I don't want to say these certain things. I don't want to feel slimy on the phone. I don't want to use these catchphrases necessarily. And you did not want, like, you were in that moment panicking and not wanting to say the words, I don't know if you're a good fit. And I mean, obviously that's, that line can be used as a bit of a psychological trick where that person then wants to prove that they're a good fit. It's the scarcity and all that. And so then I like how you said, you know, now when it comes to that out, you don't want to spend an hour of your life feeling slimy or feeling anything like that. And I really love how you reframed that moment of, it's a moment when someone is coming to you with, at that moment, they've hit a wall or they've hit a point where they just can't take it anymore and they're reaching out for help. And I've been in those situations where I've called someone about something and I've been in that moment. And the interesting thing I find when I can think about myself in those moments is that there's an equal combination of pain that I want to take care of, and I don't want to spend the money, or I don't want to take on this person's services, right? You know, like it's almost equal in the sense of I want to make a change and I'm terrified of making a change. And if I'm catching what you're up to a little bit, it's a little bit of a if this is the right time and if I'm the right fit and if right now is the right moment, let's take action right now, because 48 hours from now or even less, like I know that I've done those things and I've said, well, let me think about it. And it's been a no-go. And last thing, in the last podcast, we talked about Landmark, which is a personal development seminar. My friends who got me interested in it that day said, you need to sign up today or not, but like be powerful in that decision. Don't say maybe, or don't say next month, or don't say any of that. And I kept saying, well, you know, the weekend that it's being held is my birthday, and then the Tuesday is my son's birthday, and it's my 20-year high school reunion. And they said, well, you know, and it was really fascinating because in the moment it was uncomfortable in the sense of, I don't want to make these decisions right now. I need more time. I need to think about it. And they really encouraged me not to. And I'm really grateful they did, because if they hadn't in that moment really taken a stand for what I really wanted to, and seeing that those things that were coming up for me were just the same old barriers coming up again, maybe with a new face or a new name, they helped me push through that. And I'm really grateful for it. And I can see that you just got like a wealth of information, a wealth of knowledge in this arena. One of the things I wanted to hear a bit about is, so you've got some very tangible or sessions, but like very actionable steps on how to go about a sales call, or how to structure a sales call in a way that it's going to work. And the last thing I'll say is, like, in my business, so my business as a financial advisor is, most people are paid, it's commission based. And his history of the business has been, it takes a really long time to get someone to take action. Mm-hmm. And I am very much exploring ways to get people to take action in that first meeting that's going to bind them to the action. Because the way it's structured is that people, and I would come home after these first meetings and be like, oh, this person is so excited about taking the next steps in their finances. I'm so excited. They're so excited. This is going to be an amazing fit. And then our next meeting a week later, they're like, oh yeah, I'm not interested in like half that stuff we talked about. And it's really recently that this has happened a few times where I'm like, all right, we got to change things. And so I am moving towards a structure where I can get people to commit, like get some skin in the game that first meeting, and say, like, you got some skin in the game today for this to happen. Because otherwise it's just life creeps back in within half an hour after the call. I think it's just back to same old. And like, oh, what did we talk about? Why was I excited? You know, but because they've got no skin in the game. So
so let's talk about that. And let's talk about the structure of a call too, because what I was speaking to is your mentality first. Like, hey, you're in service. So that's the other thing. Don't think about what you're going to get out of it. Don't think about the sales pitch that's coming. You're here to serve and to hear them and to actually see, is this client a fit? Because I'm going to tell you, first, you think anyone with money that's willing to throw it in as a fit, but some aren't. Some have, there are people that are, just not in the right place or not going to be good fits for you. They really need to go to a shelter and get some help, or and they're just really, not a good fit. So, or maybe they're wanting you to help with something that is not your genius zone. And so really you're coming to explore that and to add value and in service. And you've got to get yourself out of your way. I personally say a prayer before, but for you, that's whatever. I'm like, God, whatever's meant, my highest and greatest good. I'm a channel. I'm in service. Whatever is needed. This conversation is mutually nourishing, divinely guided, and deeply intuitive. And most of my people know that I'm woo-woo. So that's the first thing. On a call, you take authority. So when you start, you're going to start with, hey, thanks for your time. Let's just set the stage. And you may be like, okay, this is going to be an important moment. So are you in a quiet place? And Zoom is really great for that because you can read more body language and you know what's going on. Two, you want to make sure, however you set that vortex, I set it with a prayer. If you don't want to say a prayer, that's not your jam. The thing is knowing what your jam is, and they're calling you because they believe you are the expert, because you are, and you've set that stage. So don't start like conforming, do you want to do this? You want to do that? No, you're setting it. So for me, I say, and you could say something like this rather than praying, hey, look, for this time, here's my standard. I want to dive into what's going on for you in the world, and hear, where you've been, where you want to go. I want to give you some value. And then I want and expect this conversation to be mutually nourishing. I love that line because it raises the standard. Like, hey, you can't just be a jerk to me on the other end, because I'm giving you my time too, and this is my expectation. That will level things up so fast. I've never heard anyone else say that, but it naturally is what I do because it's my expectation for my life. People do not get my time in my life unless it's mutually nourishing, right? So you set the vortex. Then you ask some questions. So, hey, tell me whatever you want about what's going on in your life or your business, because most entrepreneurs or whatever you're coaching, if you're in a relationship coach, what's going on in your relationship or your life or whatever you want to tell me, because we're personal beings. Everything's everything, right? And sometimes people want to say something else. Or I may say, if we know it's a business booking, tell me about what's going on. Where have you been in your business and where are you wanting to go? So then they'll start to tell you, and some of this you'll have on the intake form ahead of time, but I still like to hear it fresh off the press, because when they typed it in, they were in one place, and where they are now, it's a different place. So then your job is, you're not in the clothes, you're not in the technique. You need to back off of that stuff. That's robotic. It puts a wall up between you, and you need to be in active listening, taking in, what is this human being dealing with? What are they wanting? And you will it'll be natural what comes up that you could help them with, or a pattern that you're seeing. I'm really about heart-centered, intuitive flow. As strategic as I am, I'm woo-woo. And so, I've had sessions where I'm like, wait a minute, I'm feeling some resistance right here. And it's coming from something that has nothing to do with your business. What is it? Yes, my husband and I are going through a divorce right now, and I feel really, okay, all right, that's all right. Let's breathe that in, and then we'll keep going. Or like one lady, amazing lady in her 50s, not clear about where she's going next in her business. And as she started talking to me, it was like she went and got this education all the way to master's level. She played the violin all the way to symphony level. She did this all the way to this. And I stopped her and I said, you know what? Your program has to be called Your Path to Excellence, because who you are is excellence. Look at how you've done everything. I'm like, you're crushing on the tools and you're confused because you're looking at it. And anyway, she started bawling right there. So those moments only happen when you are not in the technique, when you are human to human, what is going on, and then holding space, and you are listening. You're not just prepping your next word or how you're going to shoo them along your agenda, and you are unattached. You are just here to serve in the moment, right? And then as things come up, you're hearing, what are they needing? Here's another mistake people have, is that when you go to make your offer, so I always ask, all right, awesome. This has been valuable. You got some ahas here. Is it all right? Do you want to know about what it could be like to work with me further, more deeply? Because I think it would be valuable. You get the yes. You don't just dive into it. You get the yes. Then most people think, okay, you've got your program built out and it has 20 modules and all these bonuses. And some people will be like, you get this for this and this. That's not my style. No, not at all. You heard the core things they're wanting. What are the outcomes they're wanting? So if your relationship business, okay, you just told me that you're feeling like you love your husband so much, you have so much history, but the passion is completely gone and you don't know if you can bring it back. What if you could feel like you were dating again and he was looking at you and flirting with you and you loved it, and you got this whole new round of next level with your man? Oh my gosh, that would be amazing. You're going to get that in these programs. We're going to dive into, and if there's a certain module that you're covering that they're like, if I only knew this, and this module, and then you're going to remember someone's story who sounds like their story, whether it was you or someone who's worked with you before. It's like Molly. She had done everything that she could do. She had $18,000 pre-launch. She'd already worked with other coaches or launch on Facebook ads, but she knew she needed to up level. She applied these things, and now we're in a money scenario, right? She applied these things, 5 weeks in, pre-launch, no Facebook ads, 56K launch, sound bowl healer. Like, that's possible for you. So you hear and give the ahas and give some stories, because now people want to go, has someone else done this? Can I see it for myself? And so you want to give stories. And then I personally, if someone tries to make me do something on the spot, I get triggered. I'm glad that you have the grateful, and you need to go what's right for you. So if you've enjoyed being called to the table in the moment, then go for that thing. For me, I have a PDF with all the offer written up, and I tell them, look, I'm not going to ask you to make a choice here. I am going to show you how I get that urgency though, Galen. Okay, so I tell them, I'm gonna make.
Can I say one thing? Because I don't want to interrupt your train of thought too much. But what I'm amazed by is when you started off the podcast and you were saying, sales, we're using the word sales and talking about how sales is a 4-letter word. What you're describing does not match the traditional sales model whatsoever. And it sounds infinitely more effective in the sense of so when I started in sales, basically it was and I get how you have to start somewhere. So it was, start with this script that's been written, start with these series of questions that have been written, start with this. And I remember I was starting to reinvent it a little bit. And someone said to me, well, Galen, how long have you been an advisor? I was like, well, 2 months. They're like, well, the people who wrote this have been advisors for much longer, yada, yada. And I said, okay, so I'm glad that I went ahead and did all those things. I memorized the scripts and all those things. But there's a certain level of it, which I felt was I call it Jedi mind trickery. I'm going to try to what's the word? It can be used for positive or negative. I guess that's what I'm getting at. The idea of, making someone feeling like they're going to miss out or making someone feel a certain way. And I think what I'm getting from you is I love it. You're setting forth that intention in the beginning of the meeting. You're really responding to what they're saying in the meeting. Maybe you have in mind where the where things need to end up by the end, but it's not like you have this set path of what they need to say to get there and what you need to reply with to get there. And the last thing I'll say is, around the timing, when I started in sales, the joke was anyone who can fog a mirror. In the beginning, you have to meet with anyone who's got a pulse, anyone who da-da-da-da-da. And that's what it was like in the beginning. I remember this one call. So I drove all over the place. I was like, oh no, I'll go meet you. I want to make it easy for you, da-da-da. And I remember one day I basically got this thing. It's this person needs help with something with their investments. So I drove to this house. I pull up. I'm wearing my fancy little suit and my jacket and my briefcase. And I pull up. I open the door. And immediately a dog jumps on me and like scratches my leg and like rips my my briefcase a little bit. The house reeks of smoke. I go to sit with this couple at the table. The husband doesn't even stand up to shake my hand. He's just sitting there with his arms crossed, you know, and we start the meeting and I'm just like all chipper and everything. And he said something like, "Oh, I can be a real sarcastic ass," you know, and they didn't want me there. Like, it was just like this terrible setup. And I walked out of there and I remember thinking, like, I'm not doing this anymore. Like, I am not getting, and it was like a 35-minute drive. So like the gas plus my time, plus getting scratched by a dog, plus having to dry clean all my stuff because now I reek of smoke. I was like, that was like $100 visit easily. And I got zero out of it. Not only did I get zero out of it, I didn't want them as clients anyway. And so I hit, like, that was a milestone. And that was like in my first couple months as an advisor where I was like, this is BS. I'm not doing it this way anymore. And the beauty of it is, like, I keep leveling up a bit. And I think we really hit it around the time. So like I had a call a little bit ago, like last week, someone was introduced to me by someone else. And I did start off by saying, you know, in my mentality was, if we're going to spend an hour together, like, I want it to be an enjoyable hour. I want it to be an hour, like you said, we're mutually beneficial. Like I really did truthfully present the opportunity to sit together as before we even sit together, I need to make sure you meet this criteria. And when we sit together, we need to make sure that you meet this criteria and we're a good fit. Because number one for me, and I used to judge myself on this a lot, I went through all my favorite clients. My favorite clients are the ones that I have fun with, that I enjoy talking to, that I enjoy calling. When I see a call on my phone, I'm getting a call from so-and-so, I love picking it up. Like, those are my top clients. Those are the ones, like, it's quite yours. And I mean, some of them tend to be like my highest income clients, but it's also, that's number one. Like, if I see the phone call coming in and I'm dreading it, I'm like, this is not a good fit. So now I'm screening people for that. Like, and I'm sitting there in that meeting thinking, am I going to enjoy it when I see your name on the caller ID or not? And like, that's one of the big ones. Anyways, I just wanted to make sure I got all that out there, because one of the biggest things is the sales component. Like, what you're describing is infinitely better than anything I've ever heard described as sales before.
That makes me so happy. And it you know, like you said, the psychology of this stuff works. And when someone's just starting, they're just throwing salespeople out there. You're in this training program, so they're just giving you the best lines and you don't understand why or how. But now you embody that. You don't know if it's a fit. Now it's a true statement, because you're not focused on just the skill of like, how am I going to do this? Now you're like, value your time and you want to enjoy your life, right? So
yeah. You're starting to say something about PDF. That's where we left off, but I wanted to make sure I didn't miss that next nugget.
Because this is the urgency thing. And then I've got a woman to coach on her webinar stuff. So yes, this, and we can, let me just pause and breathe. I'll come to her in a moment. Okay. So I tell them, look, I'm not going to ask you to make a choice right now. I'm going to send you a PDF after so you can look at it. And this is important because here's the thing. If you just push someone to make a choice and they're very analytical and they need to look over details, even if you have the best rapport in the world, they're going to not trust you because you're not letting them see the details. So you need to give people space. If you're a rebel red like I am, I'm all heart, but I'm also like, no one's the boss of me. I have to trick myself into bossing me. Then if you start pushing me to do something before I'm ready, like my process is I need to let go, breathe in. Unless I'm telling you, give it to me right now, I need a minute. I need a beat by myself to feel in when I'm not with you and I'm not all in love in the moment we just had. How am I feeling? And people who get me respect that, right? So plus, if you have to sell someone on joining your program hard, you're going to have to sell them on taking every little freaking step in your program. You have to sell them on keeping up with their payment plan, and you don't want that. So I send the PDF, but then here's how I create urgency. I'm like, you're going to notice on that PDF that there are some juicy bonuses, because I know that there is a small window of time where you're motivated to take action, and I want these results for you. And I know that a year from now, if you don't take action, you're probably not going to have the results that you're wanting. So I made it juicy, and I'll like laugh and play with them. And I'm like, so my program's a 3-month program. If you take action in 24 hours, you get it for 6 months. You know, you want to make it like epic, right? Right? Wow.
Yeah, wow.
You want to under promise and over deliver. You know, if you pay in full in 24 hours, you're going to get 2 extra 1-hour sessions with me, or you're going to get this crazy bonus. So you want to give them, and I'm like, you don't have to make a choice now, but I want you to notice those things, because if you want them, I want you to be able to get them. Right. And then I say, you know, add me on Messenger. I use Facebook a lot. If you have any questions or anything's coming up for you, or any ahas out of what we just, feel free to just message me. You can type or voice, and I'll get those really faster than emails. Sure. And I love that, because you still have the voice thing. And then I'll be like, but babe, I only want you here if it's 1,000% yes. But if you're really wanting this thing, like, let's do it. And by then they're usually like, yeah, it's time for me to, or I'll be like, and I might say, so how are you feeling, you know, or something coming up for you? What's coming up? I'm not asking for a choice. I'm asking for, and then they might say, yeah, but I don't think I can afford it. Well, what if we could put together a payment plan, you know, or, you know, then that's whenever you're, or you can't afford it. Well, okay. I'm not one of those people that's like, well, can you afford not to? But then I'm like, yeah, but how much longer are you going to live like that? Because it's been a long time. And I'm like, girl, I see your watch. You're not telling me you don't have 4 more Michael Kors up there. You know, like, if you really wanted it, could you afford it? You know, I'm not going to be pushy. I'm not going to be pushy. I'm intuitive. You can feel who you have space with and who really wants it, but now it's just selling out on themselves. If they're really a solid, like, no, I'm not going to battle with them. I'm just going to be like, awesome, feel into it. No, you know, and then I can't tell you how many people message me and go, you had me crying on my call. How do I do that on other people's calls? And I'm like, it's not a technique. I'm not trying to. Some people, we have a dance party. Some people, we read each other's astrology. It's more about, you're with that person, you're having fun, you're feeling, and be an incredible listener. Take them in and hear, and then be of service. And then make your call to action. And if they're for you, they're going to do it. Give them permission to ask for negotiation if they need it. And then, you know, make a stand, you know?
Yeah. No, that's amazing. Like, I can't wait to re-listen to this and just really absorb all this, because it's so much. And I love that, you know, you're giving some very actionable things of the listening and then, you know, the PDF, and giving people time to decide, you know, but, you know, the action takers will be rewarded. The people who act within 24 hours will be rewarded for that. And I love that.
And be transparent about it, because I don't say, oh, it's going to go away. I'm like, yeah, I put that there on purpose. You know why? Because I know that you could take action and change your whole life here and have the epic marriage, have the business leap, or you cannot take action. And I want to do whatever I can to have you do that. That's why I do that.
And the one last thing I'll say that really hit me was around the, you know, taking action quickly, but also, you know, you're being transparent about why you've put it there, and then if it's not a good fit, it's not a good fit. I mean, it's really, there's no reason to, like, I heard someone speak and they said, your business is like your ark, you know, like the animals 2x2, like your ark. And the easiest way to keep the people that aren't a good fit off of your ark is to not let them on in the first place. And I think that that's so true. And it really is. When it's not a good fit, it's not a good fit at all. And there is that option out there for anyone, you know, like, we're not a good fit. And sometimes I have had people email me after a meeting saying, please reconsider. And I'm like, no, like, I'm not, like, we are just going to fire each other in a couple months. There's no reason to start this relationship. And the last thing is, I used to train advisors, and one advisor came to me and she said, well, I'm part of this community. So this is around life insurance. She's like, I'm part of this community, and the people are adamantly against life insurance. She's like, how can I convince them to believe in it? And I said, can you find a better community?
Exactly.
Like, I'm not saying you can't.
The right department. Make sure you're talking to your core audience.
Yeah, like, I'm not saying you can't, but is that really where you want to start? You know?
No.
And so,
that's so good. And one other tip that I want to give that a lot of people miss is, if you get too focused on the service and then you don't give them outcomes and remind them and ground in what are going to be the outcomes, they may get all pumped up. Yes, I want to do this because they're feeling so good. But then when they walk away, they're like, wait, what was I going to pay $7,000 for? I don't know. I don't have it written anywhere. I don't know what I'm getting. Yeah, I love that guy, but now I'm avoiding his calls because I said yes to I don't know what, right? Yeah. So be sure to ground it. Like you create this amazing, wonderful space, and then you keep grounding in this is what you're going to get. And then that follow-up PDF is powerful.
This is really encouraging. I'll say really encouraging to hear you being successful with a approach to sales that I would say is very authentic. It's very feeling. It's very much in tune with the person and not seeing them as a target, not seeing them as a bag of cash, not seeing them as a wallet. Like I really love the fact, and you're just making it so clear, you know, making sure that person knows exactly what they're getting, not pressuring them, but rewarding them for action and just helping them live into the possibility of change that they're going to get by engaging with you. And so it's just really fantastic. Like, I love it. So thank you so much. This has been phenomenal. Is there any last thing you want to add?
No, thanks. Keep doing what you're doing. And if you're out there hustling, sales are your path to freedom. Figuring out how to serve, doing something that you're passionate about, it's a path to financial freedom. And when we're financially free, we have more choices. And that number is different for everyone. Whether you want to live in a tent in Bali for the next year, or you want, more time with your family in a little cozy home, or you want a $1 million home, that is all possible. It's what you're designed for. And your freedom will come in learning how to enroll other people powerfully into your message, your impact, your voice, and into your offers, ultimately.
Amazing. That is awesome. Well, thank you so much. This has been jam-packed. Like I was taking notes on the side, and finally I was like, you know what? I can't keep up. I'm just going to have to re-listen to it again. So that's just incredible. Thanks so much for joining me. And I can't wait to check out that link and be in touch. This is awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right. Take care.
Okay.
Thank you for joining me. This has been an episode of the Side Hustle Army podcast with Galen Nuttall. Be sure to get your free Squirrel 101 guide to maximizing productivity in 48 hours or less, the Distracted Entrepreneur's Guide. Check that out at www.thesquirreljournal.com. And thanks for joining me. Take care until the next time.